croeso cynnes i chi gyd, croeso i'r sioe frenhinol hefyd ar gyfer hyn. Dwi'n gobeithio fydd yn dyfodol agorau ar eich onest am fabwysiadu yng nghefn gwlad yma yng Nghymru. Welcome to all of you to the Royal Welsh. Whether you come here all the time or whether it's your first time, welcome to all of you for what I hope will be a very nice, open and honest chat about adoption in Wales. Nawr, pan dwi'n meddwl am gefn gwlad Cymru, dwi'n meddwl am golygfeydd bert iawn, dwi'n meddwl am gymunedau agored ac onest a cryf a cymunedau, pobl go iawn. Ond hefyd, pan mae'n dod i bethau fel mabwysiadu, dyn ni'n meddwl am heriau fel daeryddiaeth, ymwybyddiaeth a camsyniadau hanesyddol o bosib. When we think of the Welsh countryside, we think of incredible landscapes. I just finished a show yesterday for S4C and I've driven the length and breadth of Wales over the last 2 weeks, and I just stopped to think we have the best landscapes and kind of picturesque locations in the world, I think. And coupled with that, we have really tight-knit communities and amazing people and family ties and yeah, really amazing traditions. But as well as that, we also have challenges when it comes to something like adoption, possibly we'll hear in a second, maybe things like geography or some myths, which we will hopefully bust in this session as well. Felly, dyn ni'n mynd i edrych ar rai o'r heriau yma, hefyd ar pa fath o gymorth sydd ar gael hefyd ambell i straeon hefyd. So we'll dive into some of those challenges, what they are, how they can be tackled, what support is available, some about the process, some stories, and yeah, I hope to be a really good discussion. So felly os ydych chi yma i ddysgu mwy am fabwysiadu, falle ydych chi'n gweithio gyda pobl ifanc neu gyda teuluoedd, neu falle ydych chi wedi mabwysiadu o'r blaen, ydych chi eisiau bach o nostalgia trip. So if you would like to learn more, maybe you're here to learn more about the adoption process, maybe you work with young people and children and families, or maybe you've adopted yourselves and you want a little nostalgia trip, that's also great as well. A wedyn bydd Q&A ar y diwedd. There'll be a Q&A session at the end for about 10 minutes, and we have a microphone which will float around and you can ask us whatever you like, within reason, of course. So let's have a chat with our panel then. So our panelists today, we have Sophie, who is an adoption team manager at Powys County Council. Hello, Sophie. Annwyn, who is a Powys adopter who has experience with adopting siblings. Hello. And also Carys, a Ceredigion adopter who has adopted 2 children. Welcome to our wonderful panelists. Okay, I mentioned some of those misconceptions or myths there at the beginning, folks. Any of those stand out for you? I'll open the floor. I guess, Sophie, if you want to start off, anything there that you think shouldn't be true? I mean, things like people maybe say they're too old, or if you're single, you can't adopt, or I don't know, people need to own their own home. Any particular misconceptions that you constantly hear or see that you'd like to bust?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot, to be honest. And like part of those myths, we try and bust them in that initial inquiry stage. I would say, because I think you both are going to talk to a bit about the age and misconceptions, both of being young and maybe an older prospective adopter. But for me, it's like what that family looks like. And when people come to us and they ask, can I adopt because I'm single or I'm in a same-sex relationship, like immediately we know that adoptive families are created and they immediately look different because they've been created in a different way to lots of other families. And I guess like I always just want to get that message out there that they look different, and that's amazing. And actually we in adoption services have worked with so many different families that all look so different, and they bring something so unique to those children. And I think for us, like, we just really want to celebrate that, and that families coming together through adoption is magic, really. It's hard work, but it's like a kind of magic, and that doesn't mean that it has to look like a mum and a dad.
Right, okay.
And, you know, that's something that I feel really strongly about for us in Wales. Okay,
great. You mentioned Annwyn then. Let's bring Annwyn into it as well. Which myths would you like to bust potentially, Annwyn?
So I would say probably like about the age. Everyone, like, are you like too old? My husband was sort of the older age range of it, but I just don't think it matters. I think it's the person that you are that brings it. It doesn't matter what your age is. Like whether you're older or younger, I think it's just, who you are and what life experiences you can bring. And if anything, I think sometimes being older, you can bring more life experiences than somebody who's younger. Not that that's a negative or a positive, but, yeah, I think people do think, oh, I'm older, there's no way I can do it. But I think if you're willing to do it, there's a child out there that needs you to help them, really.
I was saying before the panel started as well, is there also a misconception about people thinking they're too young to start the process as well? It can go both ways, right?
Yeah, 100%. We were younger. I was 25 when we had our little one. So I think people don't do it younger. They do it like as the last resort. But, you know, I think when you are younger, you can bring so much to the table. And it's the first, you know, like it's like having a birth child or any children. You know, I think when you have the first child in any situation, it's hard, you know, it's like, but you don't know any different. So I think, yeah, when you are, that age thing is, it's just an age, isn't it? Number? Yeah.
And also what we like spoke about, because you have to be 21, which, you know, and that's there for a reason, that you have to have a certain amount of life experience. But what we also talked about is that there's like a balance that is brought between that actually, like, your husband is older, but actually you are really mature and were for your age when you were in your 20s, and actually he had like this child like quality about him, and it was the balance between you both that made your family what it is today.
100%, yeah.
And you wouldn't necessarily have that if you were both older or you were both younger.
No. Instead, I think it's the person you should be judged on, not your age and everything like that. Yeah, definitely.
And also with Carys, we were talking about when you're younger, that's actually a really positive thing, because you've come to adoption as a first choice to create your family. And like there's some misconceptions around that you have to go through this long process to get to the point where adoption maybe is your only option. And that didn't feel like that for you. You were younger and it was like a positive, proactive choice to create your family.
Yeah, and I think that is like a myth. It's like the last resort, like, and it's not. It should be an option from the start as well. You know, when you go through fertility, it's like, oh, you know, you'll have to go through this journey of like IVF or everything like that. No, it should be at the start of the choice as well. You know, it's a choice. You know, there's IVF and adoption. It should be together.
Not one higher than the other.
No, it shouldn't be like, oh, we've got to go through all this fertility to start off with, you know, like the IVF, the, you know, the hormones, and then, oh, if that doesn't work, then adoption. No, it should be even throughout.
So it's not seen as almost like a last resort by some people. I think that that perception of it is quite damaging in terms of people's perception.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially like, for people that don't know anyone's situation, I think they're like, oh, bless them, they can't have kids, so they've got to adopt. Like, you know, like for us, like, you know, it's a choice, you know, like.
Yeah. I agree, 100%.
Do you think people struggle to know what to say to you when it comes to talking about adoption, as well as the misconceptions? Are there misconceptions that people also bring to you that they just don't understand, and it, you know, because when people say things like that, maybe they think they're being nice or supportive or showing sympathy, but it's just driving you like up the wall.
It's a bit belittling.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
And people just don't know what to say, and that's fine. Just don't say anything then. I don't think people know what to say, so they either avoid it or they say things, and it's like, oh, but they're just not knowledgeable, and that's fine. Yeah, it's just, but they don't need to know, maybe, you know, like.
No, or I'm like happy to tell them. Happy to educate them on what adoption means. And how it looks like. And like you said, it's not necessarily a last resort for people.
Yeah, and I think it should be a positive thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think.
And it is a positive thing.
Yeah, it's so positive. And I think that needs to be more, you know, that needs to be really said. It's a positive thing, not a negative thing.
Yeah.
I do find like people think maybe it's more of a negative thing. I don't know, like.
So there's still a stigma around
yeah,
it slightly?
100%, I think so, yeah. Especially like in a smaller community, I think.
Do you find that if it's in a smaller community, and we'll touch on kind of, you know, rural challenges in a second, but because rural communities tend to be so tight-knit and everyone knows each other, do you find that's quite difficult to like manage or to experience?
Yeah, you know, like where we live, you know, if you walk into our local shop, oh, hello, shwmai? You know, everyone knows everyone. So like, you know, everyone knows that when you're pregnant, when you're getting married. So, you know, like when we adopted, it was like, oh my God, like they're adopted. Everyone knew, you know, like without even knowing, you know? So yeah, I do find that hard. You know, they want to know everything. Because like, you know, my nan's like, oh, do. Next door had another baby like yesterday. Everyone knows everyone. And I think people think they're entitled to know as well.
Yeah, okay.
When in reality, they're not entitled to know. You know, this is their story to say, not mine.
Yeah.
And
you have to set firmer boundaries.
Yeah.
I think that maybe if you biologically had a child, you've got to be quite firm with the boundaries to be like, no, like you said, like this, it's their story, not mine. They need a settling in period. Whereas I think in a rural environment, people are very much like, we are very much like open door policy. Walk in, like everybody's coming in, everybody's popping in for a cuppa. It's like a WI outside the front of our house some days. So we had to set those boundaries quite soon to be like, no, you can't just stop around, especially in that first 6 weeks. Like, we need that time. Whereas obviously if you have a biological child, oh my God, they were there, you know, everywhere thing. But we had to be like, no, we can't see anybody. We need to be at just us. I mean, obviously COVID did help with that. But that was quite hard. I think like we found that because it was that we're such a close community. People wanted to come and celebrate, which was lovely. And like the support we've had is nice, but at the same time, like you were saying, they knew everything before we almost did. So it was like, right, no, you guys need to take a step back. But because we're a community, I didn't feel any problem with going, absolutely no, back off. Do you know what I mean? Okay. But at the same time as that, we got food delivered for us. People would leave stuff for us. Like the amount of, I don't think we had to buy any toys for the kids because it was just like dropped off at the door, which was lovely. And like that was just, that was amazing. That was so nice from that side. But very much like had to set the boundaries because otherwise we would have been inundated with people.
We were the opposite. Like no one knew what to say, so they didn't.
Really?
Yeah. So like the only people that came was like a small, you know, it was like only my family, like our like really small knit, because like nobody, because they didn't know like how to approach it. So like nobody really came up. Not well, I wouldn't want them up, but like it was very like we didn't have that like, oh my God, let's see the baby, I want to see the baby, can I come up? Like nothing like
wow.
That. But I think as a community everyone knew, like
they still knew, but they didn't know how to deal with it.
They didn't know how to like, and where we live you can't pop in, you know, like, you know, my neighbours are sheep of that. So you know, so like, you don't pass my house. Yeah. You know, you don't pass our house. So I think, they didn't know. So even when you saw them on a street, like, maybe they'd like go the other way. Because they just didn't know how to, you know, they, like, I remember once, like, oh, do I say congratulations then? I'm like, say whatever, but I felt, you know, like, I do think, like, but like, I think that's where we live in general, you know, but but after having the second one, I think it's more, it's more of, oh, another one then, is it? Like, I do think people were more Yeah, I think.
Compared to,
Yeah,
But-
that's interesting because you have kind of two sides there of the same coin.
Yeah.
Do you find that, Sophie, as well, when it comes to people adopting in rural areas? You have some people who have that tight-knit, like the advantage of being in rural area, be the tight-knitness of it, where people can drop stuff off and everyone knows everyone. But also is there maybe a challenge is that people just geographically live further away from each other, not just when it comes to support from the community, but also when it comes to working with people like yourselves. Is that a challenge that needs to be considered as well, or how is that tackled or managed?
I think what happens in adopting in a rural community is both things are true. So the geography is a real strength because it means that the children that we are responsible for family finding for, we know the adverse experiences that they've had, they are going to benefit from big amounts of space so that they can move their body and so that they can regulate their emotions and recover from the experiences they've had. We know that it helps them to have that opportunity, but the geography is also a challenge. And in fact, I didn't live hugely far away from you.
No.
But it was still, 45 minutes to an hour. And that meant that when you're going through the process, you have to plan really well because I wasn't ever going to be just, like you say, driving past and I could pop in. So when you and your husband were in your assessment, we had to plan those sessions really well because there was an element
advance,
of course,
yeah.
And so we book out that whole assessment journey because you do need to do that in an environment where there's a bit of a drive. What I guess I would say, what you both spoke to about the people in your network, the people actually in your family, and there may be people in the community who weren't, directly in your network, is the preparation of those people. Mm-hmm. And actually what you were so good at is creating those boundaries. But I wonder whether you would have known that before you actually started the adoption process, that you were going to have to be a bit of a gatekeeper of your children's stories, of your process that you were going through. We had to be quite
before we
firm
started,
about that.
Wouldn't have had a clue, but we were lucky we had really good preparation to know that that's what we were going to have to do as part of the process, because I think it didn't occur because
I guess because it was a really exciting part. You knew this was how your family was then going to be created. And so for anybody in that assessment process, you want to bring in the people that you care most about and who love you the most. But actually what we have to help prospective adopters do is keep a lot of information really close to their hearts, because there's so many stages you have to go through. And then that's just to get you to your approval point. But actually then when you're learning about your children, it's a vulnerable child story, and we can give you all of the advice we can, but it's you're the one who's going to be having those conversations with your friends and family to say, I can't give you that information, but when I can, I will give you information. One thing we do in the assessment process is do a friends and family training where we help the people in your network learn about adoption and learn about the needs of the children who are likely to need adoption. And so we set the scene of you can't just turn up. You can turn up if you're delivering a hot meal that you've cooked, or some toys, or some clothes or what have you, but you're not going to be turning up at that home coming in with this big arrival, because that's not in the best interest of our children. It's more important that you're creating that safety and security. And definitely one thing I've learned from practicing in a city and in rural Wales as a social worker is that open door concept. You would not even barely shut your door, let alone lock it.
Literally one in, one out, just constantly.
And that's
all day long.
a real strength to be celebrated of the communities in rural Wales, but it also means that you have to actively shut that door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And metaphorically as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's almost people think just because you live in rural areas you can just walk into someone's house. There's that permission that comes with
and you get to that point, you're there now, that's what your children know of their family home, that it's anyone is welcome when they need a hand. They just open the door and they shout and say is anyone in? But actually in those early days, that was not what you needed or what they needed, most importantly.
My best friend was literally coming after 10 o'clock at night and dropping food parcels off at me into the cover of darkness after the kids had gone to bed, because we couldn't see anybody. And that was amazing, but that was also really hard.
Challenging.
But it was, for them and us. But yeah, it's definitely the boundaries thing was a a big sort of shock to the system.
Do you find there's people like you can share notes with, like other people in communities who have also done fostering or who are fostering? Is that something that because if I was ever to do something like that, I would like to find people who've also done it, to have like a support network. And I'm just guessing that maybe is easier in somewhere like a city, I'd imagine. Sophie, I don't know, but maybe in rural area it's a bit more challenging, or...
Until today, no. Like we were talking about before, hadn't really had that sort of link in with other adoptive parents in our situation, and it's weirdly weird how close our situations are actually very similar. Okay. Yeah, which is lovely. But we were so lucky, like I had Sophie as my social worker, and like she's been amazing from that support, network side to it.
But the geography does impact that.
The geography does, because there are groups that I know that we can go to, but some of them have just been too far away, and like work commitments and everything. So like I've got to say, like Powys do really try, but it's just there's nothing that's sort of like local to me as such. So it's
And I think when you do adopt, it changes your whole life, but it changes how you look at life as well. 100%. Like, I had a really good childhood, like privilege, like never, so when we had the kids, it changes how you look at everything. What trauma can do to a child is, even from a young age, when you do the training, you're like, what? I didn't know this was happening. I was naive, but you are naive to it, because if you haven't been in that situation, you have no idea. And I think as an adopter, I can talk to my friends that has birth children. Yeah, the mothers, they understand, we understand what it is to raise kids. But like when we talk, it's like fresh air, because it's
like
we get it.
You get parents like mums, you're like, they've just done that or whatever, like biological children. But we're kind of looking behind, going, right, is there a reason for that?
Yeah.
Is there a trauma response?
What
to
are they
it?
trying to tell me?
Is there something? Yeah. Is they trying to tell me? Like we're always thinking about like pace, and that side of things. And it's like, if you can relate to biological parents, but sometimes you do, like you said, it's been lovely because you're like, oh God, like, is there other things that is that a response coming from our child because it's a normal response, or is it a trauma response? It would be nice to have that more of that support.
Because that's quite a skill though, to stop and go, this may be something I don't yet understand, and to give the child that grace that other parents may not have to have that skill. So you have to develop something that maybe other people would never have to think about in their lives. Yeah. So it's pretty incredible. Yeah. You spoke about support there. When it comes to after having the children come to your home, the support doesn't stop there, Sophie. There's support that continues afterwards.
Yes.
Can you just talk through some of those? We've touched on it slightly, but can you talk a bit more about those, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think like in terms of the best post-adoption support, it starts before adoption. So you're building that relationship before you even know who your future children are going to be. So you already have this concept that like, I've got a question, I know somebody's going to try and answer it. And if I wasn't ever able to answer your questions, I mean, you're an amazing researcher, so you probably would have tried to find the answer anyway. But I'll go away and I'll find that. I'll create an opportunity for us to learn so that you know that we're here. Because the shift that happens from when you go through what is a really intrusive process, the actual stage 1 to stage 2 is 6 months, around that time, but then you've got the time when you're in inquiry stage. That's like incredibly rich in terms of your learning. It's really intense because you're shifting your thinking in terms of what you said, Carys, about being a bit naive about what these children have been through, and then you go into what is hopefully your approval process, and then you're in a family finding bit of your adoption journey. And that's incredible because you're learning about the profiles of your future children, potentially. And when you're in that stage, you need to have built that relationship so you know you can be really honest with whoever your social worker is or your service, adoption service more generally. And obviously in this area, that's Adoption Mid and West Wales. And if you do that right and you're consistent, then actually you, for example, accessing post-adoption support when the girls had moved, you're going to be much more able to do that because you've already got that relationship and you can already know that you can be vulnerable and ask questions. So it starts like before. And then when you're in the stage where you know who your children are going to be, there's a lot of help over that transition phase. The move for children from their foster families to their adoptive families, however well you support that, is traumatic for a child, you know, and so therefore like that includes a lot of social work visits, like evening calls. Sometimes we have to get an external service like a therapeutic intervention in place for a child, and then that also includes like the professional network, which is kind of big once you get to the stage of there being a child or children. It's quite a big team. That's like its own thing, isn't it? You have to be...
that takes life on its own.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of social work visits, some planned, some unannounced. And then in terms of the support that you would get once your child finally moves, that would look like ongoing social work visits. We had to do some like kind of post-bedtime calls because it was just not possible to have those calls, and actually we know that those children are going to be really vigilant to all the adult conversations. So you have to be quite creative with how you set that up. And I think in particular in, you know, rural Wales, that isn't just popping in, you have to plan because of the distance. I wasn't too far away from you, but sometimes, you know, we're having to travel an hour and a half to get to that adoptive home. And then we're supporting families through to the point where there would be an adoption order made, which is the final order for a child, to say that they're like legally part of your family and you're their full legal parents. That's normally the natural place where we say goodbye. But I kind of think of it as a bit of a goodbye for now. We're saying that we've got to this point in the creation of your family, but that we need you to let us know if anything changes about the needs of your child or children. And then we have a responsibility to come back into the family, learn what's going on and what the support needs might be. And we try and do that as best we can. Like, the reality is that that is part of adoption services that is quite stretched. And so therefore we need quite a lot of trust between ourselves and the families to know like that we really truly do know when you need us, because there's a challenge there. But yeah, I kind of would just hope that that feels then like a lifelong membership for your children to accessing support.
It's nice because it's kind of like you said, it's like a natural sort of, for us it was anyway, like gradient off, and then sort of you know that there's that still that support, but you're trying to still be a normal family.
Yeah, and actually you were ready to be like, not have social workers come to your home anymore. Like, you know, we laughed about that. You were like, thanks very much, but
get out.
We want to, and here we are today. And that's like completely normal, because like your families were created in such a unique way. You have to go through this process of having people, you know, in your home, conversations that your friends and family didn't need to have with the creation of their families. And so you get to a point where you're like, actually, we just want to live as a family and learn how to be a family together. And then we just pop back up. Like, there've been a few things where I've needed to pop back up, like maybe to do with education. Or some life story
work and stuff like that. But again, we've got, because you build that relationship so solidly with a social worker, it doesn't feel weird when you like, I have to like ring Sophie, like, Sophie, it's me again, can you help, like I need help with this or whatever. It's just a natural, it's just a natural part.
A hotline to support, essentially.
She's going to block me one of these days. But
Was it similar for you, Carys? Did you have one social worker working through the whole thing?
Yeah, we were really lucky. With both of ours, it was the same social worker.
Is that how it normally works? Is there one social worker normally? Is it how it normally works?
Yeah. So both of you have had that experience. Like, it's not true for everyone, but your ideal scenario is that the social worker who even comes out to talk to you initially about adoption and what adoption looks like and your strengths and vulnerabilities, potentially, that person then also assesses you and takes you through your family finding journey. And there's a real strength to that. I mean, I feel so privileged that I was the first person to read about your future children before you then did.
Yeah.
And I think that because I knew you and your husband so well, I knew when I was reading about those children, all of the things that were amazing, like connectors.
We were only going from one.
Yeah, I know, but there's just no other children in the world who, yeah, like, you know, it's just an amazing thing to be part of that. And you wouldn't have that if you had lots of social work changes. So, you know, social work is like many other services in the public sector. Sometimes there are changes and you can't help that if a social work leaves or for whatever reason, but we will always try and be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it similar for you, Carys, as well?
Yeah,
like
we were really lucky. Like, you know, we had to, and we did. We trusted our social worker, like, because she knows more about us than maybe our own family does. And you just, you know, yeah, we completely trusted her decision, you know. And yeah, I think you've got to trust them though. Like,
Your life is in their
yeah,
hands, yeah.
they'll, yeah.